No, these aren't the list of here's the things we need to do, because that's going to be different in every parish, every community, every expression of this relationship. Because the reality is that you, and you, me, all have a very unique soul that has been given to us by God. So that relationship and those things that we need to do in our parishes are going to look different. And so in that way, I wanted to not give, here's your lists of things to do, and because that just sounds boring, but to give ground rules, and that if you have questions, that we talk about it further. Does that make sense?
They have a young adult diocesan-wide group. I can't remember what it was called, y'all.
CYA,
Okay.
Catholic Young Adults,
Yeah. So,
Catholic Youth. Our chancellor's here. What's it called? Catholic Youth? Yeah.
something else.
I told him to call it CYA because it sounds like a good pun.
That's right. So those young adults meet periodically. I've seen on the social media where they have presenters of the sacramental life over the summer, and somebody is usually presenting that's an older representative to help reflect the church teaching or whatever. So I think that's a positive thing. Is that a continuous thing? Is there someone mentoring them along the way? Because there's two parts to that. You got to have the fun stuff to bring people in, and then you got to have more of the doctrinal stuff or whatever they may have lacked in their catechesis or whatever to keep them coming. Is there a mentoring thing going on in that? Because some of the people, I'm from St. Elizabeth and Fort Acres, so quite a few of them are part of that. Sure. I just don't know if they have what they need going forward.
It's a yes and no. I'll say that whole thing originated from those young adults. That before that, we don't have much for them, and we haven't. And that's the reason, quite honestly, why we have so many that, all right, I went through CCE, I got confirmed, I became an adult, I have to do this on my own? Yeah. And we just continue on. The largest denomination of Catholics has fallen away. So they created that themselves because they got lit on fire with something and said, we need this, and I want to help others have this too. That part's great. And so they've been shepherded. It's not just of their own creation, but also at the same time, they're not trying to give the talks themselves. A witness talk is good. That's fine. But sure, for the sake of doctrine, we're not getting Joe Schmo. If that's what your concern was. So it's being shepherded. And it's of course under the direction of their pastor, which I think now is Father Jim still here? He was. He's your pastor. And so he's working with them, Blake, and that one's Catholic culture. CYA, that's actually through the diocese. That sounds bad. So yeah, they're it's both and, but Catholic culture is just parish. But each parish needs to have something. In reality, it's its own expression of that mystical body.
We hear a lot these days about the woke generation.
Oh, woke.
And Black Lives Matter. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of others I haven't even included in this. Do we have active ministries to counteract or engage the people that are being attracted to these ideologies?
A good Catholic answer is yes and no. So the woke generation, TikTok, and just whatever, secular world. So is there something on the side of the diocese that, we're together working on this? Not really. But the reality is the ministry that is meant to go out and correct or guide or lead these ideologies back to the truth and goodness and communion with the church and all the good stuff, that's sitting in these pews, and we're gathered here together this weekend. That's each of our responsibility. It's the whole point of that we take our own relationship, that own baptismal call and reality that God is our God, and go live that out. To be a brother for another. So not really just to put it back, but I mean, that's what Christ asks us to do, is to go and spread the gospel. And so to those that are confused with, TikTok, being woke, and you name it, that's in the world, it's to accompany them and show them what is greater, what is beyond, what they think they're getting in pursuit of fulfillment and joy, and help them see when eventually they realize they lost track, and just invite them back. Be that witness. There is something beautiful and attractive to all of this. And that's because God is within it, and it's not of our own making. They realize eventually that all that is empty because it's of our own making as humans. And so it's either we wake up to it and become a real kind of woke, the good kind, or they just keep going and going and going, pursuing and looking, and then it's even further than before. So it's giving witness to all of this. And that's what we're all called to do, period, as an individual. Yes?
I hear these terms, and there's one that's about if you would, curriculum in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember the term for it. CRT, okay, thank you. And I don't even know what the acronym stands for.
Critical race theory is what it is? Oh,
Critical
What is
race
that?
theory.
what is that?
And I guess the content of it, I hear people talking about good, it's bad, it's indifferent. I don't know the content enough to know whether to speak to what are the nuggets of maybe truth or where the errors are intelligent. And that's the same to be said about these other things that are out there. I'm naive. I'm 72 years old. I'm several generations removed from the people that are being indoctrinated in these beliefs.
Sure. Well, for the sake of time, I'll ask and I'll learn about whatever critical race theory is after. I don't know what it is offhand, but I'll just say this. Okay, so you have your own life experience. We all have our own background, of our own age, upbringing, all of that. You have the wisdom that you can share by who you are. I don't need to know everything about TikTok, everything about Fast and the Furious, everything about you name it, to be able to do this. That at a basic level, you're human, I'm human, we're all humans. And we speak to that, speak to the commonality. Not everybody has everything anyway. The way that, does that make sense? Like, I don't need to know all of everything. I need to be the man for all seasons. I need to be everything to everyone. But I don't need to know the nitty-gritty per se, but you need to know how to speak to what is common and what we are called to.
I realize I don't need to know everything. What I'd like to have is some discussion through the lens of church teaching from people in authority to form me so I can talk intelligently. Talk these different. It's like talking about the heresies in ancient times, and people were being church fathers were fighting against the heresies in a very active and intelligent way. These things, in fact, are heresies of modern times.
Right, modernity. So what it sounds like is perhaps more discussions on, you could say, secular apologetics. Okay. I think that's a great idea, and I don't know of much else on a group level, but we can discuss that further. I think that'd be great to look into.
Anthony,
Yes, sir.
you've been at Kelly High School now for about a week.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Have you witnessed a hunger in the younger generation for God?
Yes and no. I mean, in some, but I mean, perfect example is that this Sunday, the gospel, oh, this is a hard teaching. Meh. I mean, the number of followers all the way up into the cross just dwindled. So, I mean, that's what happens. And so, as long as there's one, that's worth it. But, I mean, it's there. So, yeah. One more. Yes, sir.
All right, so these are questions in regards to fostering spirituality within the young adults.
Hmm?
All right, so in 2003 or 4, I went with World Youth Day with the Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky, to Germany. And the beautiful thing about World Youth Day was there was Catholics for the entire planet. This was right after 9/11. There were Iraqi and Iran flags swirling with American flags, and it was beautiful. And youth was 1535. Since then, I wavered out of the church, and it's non-denominational, back into the church. And in that time, I've done mission trips with other churches. And I have lived in many places, and a lot of the churches I've gone to, Catholic churches, have been a different demographic. And it seems like there wasn't a lot of food for the 35 and below in regards to get together, let's go do this. When I went on that trip, it was me and another fellow from the entire diocese, which was several counties. And all of a sudden we were on a bus and on a plane, and I did with all kinds of youth that it was cool to talk about Jesus. Not you live in a secular world, not everyone in school talks about their faith. Is there anything going on? I'm on that cusp, I'm 35, I'm on that cusp. But is there anything going on for the young adults to get together and shoot the breeze about their faith? And then kind of bouncing off of his question, what about bridging that gap where you have these young adult groups and these older adult groups where their parents are gone, but you got the grandchildren and the grandparents sharing their wisdom with each other, sharing what TikTok is, and sharing what it was like back in the 40s or 50s, merging together to bring the faith into the next generation while fostering the faith among the next generation. Is there anything going on like that?
Not as much as there could be. There's Catholic culture at St. Elizabeth's that was started by young adults. There's CYA that's like through the diocese, and they've had a few social events, a few nights to kind of gather and shoot the breeze about their faith. But there does need to be more, but then it's like, well, who's going to do it? Well, I mean, we all need to do it. But part of the difficulty is that so many of us can feel like, I have no idea where they're coming from. I don't have TikTok. I don't know about all this stuff. It's this fear of the unknown that I don't want to engage. And so, I mean, let's also just say even within our area, realistically, in most places, our priests are much older, so the idea of even trying to grapple with any of the technology stuff, it all changed and moved way too fast. These youth and young adults, I mean, they can turn on and operate a computer at like 3. It's like, I mean, they function at a different level. So we have to be willing to even engage them. Even before, yes, faith needs to be a part of it, but to be willing to engage, really to be vulnerable. I mean, whether they care to hear about what it was like in 1940, share it. I mean, that's just on a basic human level. Even if you don't understand God in the midst of that, if you learn how to love another person, a human that both God created, you've already made one step there. Because if we can't recognize who we are, period, and then even get to the mystery of God, we have to be able to put that out there. I mean, vulnerability and engaging them even in our own inability. Does that kind of answer it? We need more. I'll just say that. We're working on it. All right. It's new. Both Catholic Culture CYA is like 2 years old. I think we're good. I left a condensed, just front and back bullet pointed summation of the talk on the baptistry or the baptismal font in the baptistry on the way out if you wanted one to kind of take and continue to chew over. And I'll let Andy shut me up now. So thank you all.